Deputy Clerk Schulteis, would you read the preamble for us, please?
Thank you. In accordance with the applicable statutes of the State of Illinois and ordinances of the City of Prospect Heights, notice is hereby given that the City Council Workshop hybrid meeting of the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Prospect Heights is being held on Monday, July 11, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. in person in the Council Chambers, Prospect Heights City Hall, 8 North Elmhurst Road, Prospect Heights, Illinois, and simulcast on Zoom, Acting Mayor Matthew Dolick presiding. This meeting will be broadcast live on the following cable channels: Comcast and WOW Channel 17 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. It will also be recorded and televised on Comcast and WOW Channel 17 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. Attendees who wish to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be provided an opportunity during the meeting. There's a 5-minute time limit for speakers.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to call to order the City Council Workshop hybrid meeting, tonight being Monday, July 11th, 2022 at 6:32 p.m. In the City Council Chambers at 8 North Elmhurst Road in Prospect Heights. Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call to establish a quorum, please?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Alderman Dash?
Here.
Alderman Morgan Adams?
Here.
Alderman Ludvigson?
Here.
Alderman Dolick?
Here. And I understand Michelle Cameron is out this evening by previous notification, but we do have a quorum this evening. Could we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you and good evening, everyone. The first item of business is the approval of minutes from the June 27th, 2022 City Council regular meeting minutes. We could have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections or updates? There being none, could I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Alderman Morgan Adams?
Aye.
Alderman Ludvigson?
Aye.
Alderman Dolick?
Aye.
Alderman Dash?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. The next item is appointments, confirmations, and proclamations. We do have the appointment of Jerry Simmons to the Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals. Director Peterson and I did interview candidates who applied for this position, and we met with them individually, and Dan and I were in agreement. We thought that Mr. Simmons would be the best candidate. And before I open it up to discussion, could I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Morgan Adams.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. In your packet was Mr. Simmons' resume, and Jerry is here with us this evening. If anyone has any questions regarding his background, he's here to answer anything if you have those questions. There being none, could I have a roll call, please?
Alderman Dash?
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams?
Aye.
Alderman Ludvigson?
Aye.
Alderman Dolick?
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Congratulations, sir. And I understand we have some busy meetings coming up with the PZBA, so you'll be much needed. So again, congratulations, and thank you for coming out here this evening.
Hey, Jerry, open up the July 28th, Thursday night. We'll need you.
All right, item 6, public comment on agenda matters. Do we have anyone that has registered or anyone that would like to speak? Madam Clerk?
Thank you. No, I don't. Thank you.
All right, item 7 is consent agenda, which we do not have anything on there tonight. Item 8, old business. Item A is the staff memo and ordinance amending Title 1, Chapter 7 Compensation of officers, employee salaries, and pay plan. This is the second reading, and this is regarding the stipends for elected officials. We were increasing that to, I believe, $350 for elected officials and $700 for the mayor. That was updated at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, and we were all in agreement on that item. First of all, could I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or discussion regarding this topic? Just to add a point of clarification, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, this is something that would not take effect until the seating of the next council, which is in April of 2023. But we did have a time constraint to get this finalized before October 1st, I believe. So this will be for the new council next April. So if there are no other questions, could I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Alderman Dolick,
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams,
Aye.
Alderman Dash,
Aye.
Alderman Ludvigsen.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Next item is new business. New business request an ordinance increasing the number of C1 liquor licenses from 4 to 5 for restaurant Pizza Pavia, located at 6 North Elmhurst Road, and reducing the number of Class B liquor licenses from 7 to 6, and the number of Class C liquor licenses from 4 to 3, and the number of C3 liquor licenses from 4 to 3. This is a first reading only. Administrator Wade, would you like to expand or explain some of this for us?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As the council might recall, recently we granted a special use permit for restaurant use at this location, and it's a restaurant owned by Mr. Henry Rafidia. Looking forward to it. It's my understanding, and Mr. Peterson can expand on this as far as the permitting and so forth, but I understand that they are hoping to open this summer. The reduction of liquor licenses, that's just a standard if licenses that we have on the books are no longer needed. And there have been some changes. Prospect Liquors has closed. That's going to become the dual, Wingstop and
Jets.
Jets Pizza. And Park Local, which we had provided a license for, has never opened, but that's going to become Bar Salado, or Salada. And then finally, the only actual closure is Rubens. So this ordinance, aside from providing the liquor license for Mr. Rafidia's restaurant, it also eliminates unnecessary licenses.
Okay, thank you, Joe. As I mentioned, this is first reading only, so no action is being taken, but I will open it up for discussion if anyone has any questions for Joe or Dan.
Yes. You know, I could never go without commenting on a liquor license. Is there a reason they're asking for the 3 o'clock and not the 1 o'clock? Did they say why they're going that route? Why they're doing the C1 versus the C3?
I know that's what they requested. Do you have any information, Joe or Dan?
C3 is video gaming parlors, usually.
Well, are they taking over, this happened before I was back here, are they taking over the entire building, Dan?
Not the entire building, no.
No, they're taking over what was the old tailor shop, and that was vape shop for a little bit. Then the smaller vape shop that's there now, they're taking those 2 spaces. I believe, you know, it was more of the full liquor, even though it's a full beer and wine. I believe they also were looking at some later hours on the weekends for pizza. And Henry's on the phone and can answer this probably a little better than I can.
Okay.
Is Mr.
Hello.
Rafidia, if you're with us, if you would go ahead, sir?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Just the C1 license will allow us to remain competitive with everyone else in the market, and it'll allow us to expand our weekend hours a little bit down the road. And as was previously stated, we're only going for beer and wine, so there won't be any hard liquor or anything.
How many seats are there?
Oh, they're approximately 35 to 40 inside, plus they've also got a variation to put a patio out in the front for outdoor seating in the summertime, which adds another approximately 20 seats.
Okay. And have you seen plans yet?
We have issued the demolition derby, or demolition permit. I was at a county fair on vacation, I'm sorry. They still do demolition derbies up north. So we have the demolition permit, which we've issued. We've seen the original conceptual plans for the build-out, however, because the first ones didn't include the vape space behind, they're in revisions now. So we're expecting those any day. So we believe that, based on the presentation of the Planning and Zoning Board and presentation of the council, that they're going to be an 11 a.m. pizza lunch and go throughout the day, and then have outdoor seating during the seasonally nice weathers to give an option down in this side of the city.
Okay. Full commercial,
Kitchen, yep,
what kind of pizza oven?
brick fired.
Okay. Okay, I'm not obviously you're gonna you're gonna get video gaming after this, correct? After you open?
Part of the request, Alderman Levinson did have an area. I don't know if you're familiar with the tailor shop, but when you walk in, you have the main floor, then it goes downstairs. That downstairs area is going to be a separate area where the gaming, but the main floor and the front patio are going to be for the pizza, the restaurant. So that's just an ancillary component. I think it's less than 15% of the floor space.
Okay. I'm not a fan of like 3 a.m. downtown Prospect Heights. I'm not a fan of, our 4 o'clocks that we have either, but I'm all in at a 1 o'clock, and if it goes well and you need, even our 4 o'clocks don't stay open until 4 now, so I hate to issue it and have it out there, because if it's not yours and somebody comes in and buys it from you and wants to transfer the license and it's not what we're looking for, there's not a lot we can say. I'm okay if it's 1 o'clock, but I don't like the 3 o'clock. And if it really is pizza, every place that's opened that's gotten a liquor license since forever, since gaming started, they've all told us about how great their restaurant is, and you go in there and they got a Tombstone pizza oven, and that's it. So although they tell us they're going to do well with their food, but food is 1% or 0.5% of the total revenue of the place. So I'm okay if it's 1 o'clock and you're committing to us that this is gonna be a full-on restaurant, and that's the main purpose of it. 'Cause, we all know
Yes.
these video gaming places, are doing 150, 200, some of them in town, $300,000 in revenue in gaming. And the last thing I want is a gaming location downtown Prospect Heights open till 3.
That's not our primary purpose. Our family's been in the restaurant industry forever. It's been over 30 years. We currently own One Taco Dos Tequilas out in Palatine, which we operate and run. And this is just another restaurant that we're looking at our portfolio and bring to the community.
Okay, like I said, I'd be good with 1 o'clock. I couldn't agree to a 3 o'clock right there.
I have a question. So in your other restaurant, do you have much business after 1 o'clock in the morning on those weekend days?
It varies, so we're not ideally going to be open till 3 o'clock in the morning. Our goal is to always just get the license and get all the licensing out of the way in the beginning. And if we do find that our target audience is looking for that, then we may open, but usually we don't. For example, at One Taco in Palatine, we close at 9 p.m. because we found that in that space, there really isn't much business after 9 p.m. And our market, which is families over there, everyone's at home after 9, so nobody comes to the restaurant. And this will be the same exact thing.
what are your projections or goals, revenue, food to gaming?
As far as food, we're expected over 1.5, 2 million per year. That's what we've hit in all our previous restaurants. And with gaming, like I said, I don't have that in our projections just yet. We're primarily focused on food for now. The gaming always just helps us. For example, there might be times during like COVID, which we've seen in the past, where it was really difficult running a restaurant with the food and everything. So gaming is just supplemental income that helps us pay rent and everything else.
No, I agree with you. It saved some of our restaurants in town, but it also created a lot of little gaming oases, you know, just, I would say 75% of our gaming locations are gaming. You know, if they sold 3 cans of Coke a day, that would be a banner day. So I just want to
Right.
make sure that's not, and
That's not our goal by any
forgive me
means.
for
No.
being skeptical, but everybody comes in here saying that. I just want to make sure that you're really going to do
No,
the food
yes,
side.
of course.
And if you really do, and you want to open till 3, and you got a history until 1 o'clock that you're doing well, and you're selling pizza, which I wish you would do, or I hope you do, I would, you know, I would be inclined to increase it later, but to just throw it out there, you know, till 3 o'clock right off the bat is too much for me.
Yeah, our primary goal is pizza. We had Angelo's Pizza restaurant, which was in the city, really popular. From there, we went and opened Pop's Pizza out in Roselle. That did really well. And now we had One Taco Dos Tequilas out in Palatine. That's primarily Mexican food. We also have Hot Pockets Sports Bar, which will be like that's more of a sports bar billiards place. And now we're looking to open Pizza Pavia, which will be a pizza place in the community. And hopefully we could sponsor some teams and be involved in the community there as well.
Okay.
Anyone else? Alderman Dash, how do you feel about the late-night liquor license versus the 1 a.m.?
I'm glad to see a new business opening in a vacant spot. And they have a good reputation in our municipality, and I have no issue with it.
Okay.
I would agree. I mean, I see also that the liquor licenses who have been issued to a lot of the restaurants in Prospect Heights, other than the gaming places that are just gaming places like Penny's, Elsie's, and Stella's, they have the 3 a.m. license as well. So I'm okay with the 3 a.m. license.
Stella's has a 1 a.m.
Stella has 1 a.m. I'm saying other than the
Oh,
video
okay.
gaming, right?
Okay.
I understand Pat's point, but let me ask you, sir, Mr. Riffidia, what are your current plans when you do open? What would your hours expected to be? It was my understanding that you're not planning on starting off with 3 a.m. Closing time on weekends.
Correct. We're looking to start with about 10 p.m. That's usually where we start with most of our businesses. If it's around 9:30, 9:45 and the restaurant is full and people are asking us why we're closing so early, then we slowly start to shift our hours. But in the very beginning, we always start with 10. Like I said, with One Taco Palatine, we started with 10, but then we found by 8:30, 8:45, the restaurant was completely dead. So we moved to 9 p.m. And we move along every day as it is, and it just depends on the audience and our customers as they come in.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? This, as I said, this is a first reading only, so no action is being taken. Does anyone else have any comments? All right, thank you for being with us this evening. This will be on the agenda for the meeting later this month. So thank you again for being with us this evening.
Thank you, guys.
Right, next item is staff and elected officials reports. I'll start with Ward 2 Alderman Pat Lufkinson.
No report.
Ward 3 Wendy Morgan Adams.
I just want to say that I really enjoyed the 4th of July parade. I thought the residents enjoyed it. It was great to be able to connect with the residents. One advantage of being a small town is, I mean, this is one of the advantages that we have when we can do this kind of a parade and be able to have, you know, that kind of contact and connectedness with our residents individually like that. So I thought it was really a wonderful time, and I think the residents, their children, and their pets enjoyed it as well.
All right, thank you. Ward 4, Danielle Dash.
No report.
Thank you. I too just want to say that the 4th of July parade was a lot of fun, and the weather cooperated. We had a good participation. There was one point where there was a little bit of a lag where part of the parade went through, and then there was a little lag, and then the rest of it joined in. But other than that, everything went without a hitch. So thank you for everyone's participation. City Treasurer Rich Tibbetts.
Thank you, Mayor. I also had a great time at the 4th of July parade, which was held on the 2nd of July. This year it was a little different because it was the 2nd of July, and I think that might have thrown a few people off as far as when we ran the parade, but it was still great weather, really a good crowd, and we had a lot of residents out and dogs, resident dogs that liked the dog biscuits that we were throwing out along with the candy for the kids. So we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. And beyond that, I think at this point, I'll call it, that's the end of my report for now.
All right, thank you, sir. City Clerk Prasiashnyuk.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I will also say I really enjoyed myself at the parade. It was just wonderful seeing everyone and seeing so many pets too. And we were blessed with such beautiful weather. Thank you, everyone who came out. Thank you. That's my report.
All right, thank you. City Administrator Joe Wade.
No report, thank you.
Assistant Administrator Peter Falcone.
No report, sir.
Assistant Finance Director Bob Tannehill.
No report, sir.
This is going quick. Director of Building Development Dan Peterson.
As this is my first day back from vacation, no report.
I hope you had a good time. Deputy Chief Milo Derman.
No report, thank you.
Deputy Clerk Karen Schulteis.
Oh, no, I have to say something because I have to thank everybody for the 4th of July parade. As usual, the police department and the public works really helped us, and even though I'm saying it, they brought up the rear, the fire district was wonderful, and everybody in between, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, they did do a great job, and I just have to point out Karen Schulteis is always great at organizing this and getting everything functioning the correct way, so I just wanted to point that out, so thank you. Attorney John O'Driscoll.
No formal report.
Digital Communications Technician Patrick Colvin.
No report, thank you.
All right. That brings us to the discussion topic ideas for the workshop meeting. Tonight we're continuing a discussion for the City of Prospect Heights quarterly newsletter, and I know we have a few topics to discuss. I wanted to point out that I had asked that I review some of the information with staff additionally following tonight's discussion, so I don't plan on taking any action tonight. I just wanted to point that out first, but I do want to hear some ideas. I'd like to start with Assistant Administrator Peter Falcone. You had some, or just really a refresher of some of the information from the information that we sent out to the public as far as what they wanted to see.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. As everyone may remember, we sent out a survey to the residents to find out what value they received from the newsletter, what things they liked about it, and what things, more importantly, they would like changed. Overall, we got a very good response from our residents, so thank you very much, residents. And they were actually in favor of the current newsletter, how many times we've sent it out, most of the information on there. They were thankfully provided, though, information on that they wanted to see more of or things that could change. So I'll just go through a couple things. And also, as you will find out, the current newsletter is at the printer, but we have made some changes already to go along with those resident recommendations. Residents were looking for more information on city ordinances. That was added to this edition. Every now and then, we get, we could say a critique of the newsletter is we don't have a ward map in there. So I try to put a ward map in there every year or so. The only problem is it takes up half a page. So we had that in the last newsletter, but that's something people find very valuable. They enjoy reading your articles, but they don't know who is their alderperson. So that helps out tremendously. They also wanted more information about new businesses and local businesses. That was added to this newsletter as well. Posting of upcoming events, we always have done that. The newsletter has been one of the primary vehicles for us to get information out there about upcoming events. Again, business information. They enjoyed when we hire new police officers and we have promotions. So we always like to put those human interest pieces in, so to speak, of promotions and of new employees. One thing that I get asked a lot, and it came up in this survey, is that people want the option between receiving a hard copy of the newsletter and an email version of the newsletter. While I know other people may be able to do it, that is just absolutely not possible. The reason everybody gets our newsletter through the mail, a hard copy, is because we do bulk shipping. That way we get the best rate possible for postage. If we were to single out addresses, we would actually have to pay the full 50-some cents for the postage. So by doing the bulk mailing, postage is only like 17 cents per piece. So it's more economical for us, and again, as far as the city is concerned, we like to do a shotgun approach, and we want to make sure everybody gets the newsletter, because some people don't have access to a computer and they can't get the weekly e-news. So it's very possible that their only source of city information is the quarterly newsletter. So that's one reason why everyone gets the newsletter through the mail. And unfortunately, we don't have the option of it either being in hard copy or email. More information about recycling events. Whenever we have a recycling event or shredding event, we try to get that information out. Again, city ordinances, that's going to be a regular feature. Let's see. Interested in more reporting from activity of the city council and who my alderman is. And more information on community events, which is something that we try to do. It's a staple for our newsletter. So this is the same information that I had given to the council a couple weeks ago after we finished the survey. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer it.
I have a question. So Peter, is it possible that, you know how we send the e-news out every week, for at least the people who we have emails, couldn't we email the newsletter as well? I mean, not, it wouldn't be an or option, it would be an and option. We would send them out.
I could take our e-news email list, and I could email out an electronic version of the newsletter. But those people would still get the paper copy.
Right, but they would also get the email version.
Correct.
So that
Yeah, so we could do that, that's just making sure that those individuals have two options of getting it, the hard copy and that. It's just the people that I've spoken to want it instead of.
Oh.
Just because of, to save paper and, be ecologically sound or conscious. It's just not something we can do.
Right.
So, but I that's not a problem. I can definitely, that's simply a mouse click for me.
And in fact, Peters, I believe the e-newsletter already has that option, that if you want
Yeah,
to
I was gonna say.
see our newsletter, it's pretty prominent.
Correct. On
just
the
a
weekly
click.
e-news, there is a link on there to see the electronic version of the newsletter.
Good point.
Anyone else? Just the other item I wanted to mention, it can be a little bit frustrating for recipients of the newsletter. It's a quarterly newsletter, so it's challenging to have timely articles in this because there is a lead time as far as getting information in, formatted, printed. Sometimes we have issues that are still in discussion that we aren't ready to release to the public, and then by the time the newsletter comes out, it is public information, but we didn't have time to get it in there. I know that can be a little bit frustrating for people, but that's just kind of the nature of a quarterly newsletter. But Treasurer Tibbetts, I know you had some information that you wanted to present to us for discussion.
Yeah. Let me start off by amplifying what you just said, because my philosophy about the newsletter is it's backward-looking. The e-news is somewhat forward-looking, not exclusively, but that's the general perspective I have on those two methods of communication. So continuing on with what's up on do you guys see what's up on the television now on your monitors?
I have.
Yeah, we could see
Okay,
it.
I wasn't sure. Okay, so my recommendations are to expand the newsletter to 12 pages, and according to what Peter, his information that he sent to me, it would cost us an additional $500 a quarter to print the newsletter.
The newsletter is how many pages now?
I'm sorry?
I can't remember how many pages it is now.
It's 8.
Okay.
Yeah. Also to devote 2 pages, which would be page 10 and 11, to advertising. The council expressed an interest in maintaining the advertising in the newsletter to defray the cost. And so as long as we keep that in one space, in other words, in one part of the newsletter, I think that should be acceptable to people. I mean, if they don't want to read the ads, they can just skip that whole section. But if we essentially doubled the amount of advertising, we have one page, I think, well, sort of.
We don't have any.
There's no allocation.
It's just as many ads we get.
Okay. Well, in the last newsletter, we had enough advertising to provide $2,000 in income, right? I think
That is correct.
Yeah. So essentially, we would, from what we see in the last newsletter, i.e. the spring newsletter, we would need to double that in order to reach $4,000 limit. Not limit, $4,000 in advertising remuneration. So if we expanded also the content, the thing I found limiting in the current newsletter is that by the time you get done putting in the advertising and all the space allocated to city elected officials, which takes up now a little over 2 pages, it doesn't leave a lot of space left over for content of really what we're trying to use the newsletter for, which is to communicate information about the city. So that gives us 3 additional pages to fill with content. I approached Joe this afternoon. I approached Dan earlier about department heads writing a short article in each newsletter to tell people essentially what the key things are that's going on in their domain for the previous quarter, or looking forward to what's coming up in terms of what they should be preparing for. And of course, also rules and regulations. Planning and zoning obviously has got zoning or plans to review and zoning things to take into consideration as far as issuing permits and so forth. Again, we do put some of that stuff in certain parts of our newsletter, but I think it really needs to be communicated in various different ways. People don't necessarily respond to the same thing universally. So if you hit them with an article or a bullet point or something in the e-news or something in the cable channel, somewhere along the line, different people will take those messages to heart. And so point number 4 is to limit the elected officials' reports to ward or general city news. So in other words, we don't want to wander off the point of communicating with our immediate citizens that we essentially report to as elected officials. And then change the layout of the newsletter to a 3-column instead of a 2-column. Right now, it's a 2-column newsletter. I have an example of the city of Mount Prospect has a newsletter. This is an older edition, but Well, this one actually is a combination 2 and 3 column, but let's see, the 3 column approach is something like this, and you've seen these obviously in many different areas. The 3 column lends itself a little bit more to including, if you had text, it actually can provide more text on a page than a 2 column potentially can. And in our case, also the 2 column newsletter has got more space in between the lines of text for some reason. I'm not sure if it's because of the size of the font that the person that does the layout has chosen to do that, or it's just not enough text to fill the page. But one way or the other, the layout, I think, itself needs to be refreshed. I'll call it that. And so those are my recommendations for changing the newsletter. From a financial standpoint, I've got a little comparative chart at the bottom comparing the cost of producing an 8-page versus a 12-page newsletter. And if we were to sell $4,000 worth of advertising, we would actually roughly zero our net cost for the newsletter. Even if we, excuse me, sold $3,000 worth of advertising, we would still come in better than what we're currently doing for net cost with the 8-page. So we wouldn't have to sell too many more ads to actually help subsidize this 12-page newsletter. And I even added a little bit of money for graphic design. I added $250, went from $500 to $750, anticipating that a graphic designer would need to be paid a little bit more for a 12-page versus a 8-page newsletter. So those are my recommendations. Do you guys have any questions, comments?
I have just a couple of personal comments. First of all, I think that getting 2 full pages of advertising could be challenging for us. I certainly hope that we could. I'm all for advertising, not only the cost benefit, but for the benefit of those businesses, hopefully local businesses. We haven't had much in the past in the way of local restaurants, for instance. I would love to see more of that. But getting that additional advertising could be a challenge and a lot of work on the part of someone. My other concern is, and I'm always open to refreshing the layout of this, but to dedicate 2 pages, for instance, of just advertising, and other pages dedicated to just specific articles. I'm going back to my college years of working on similar things. Sometimes, in terms of the layout, sometimes you have articles that don't quite line up to fill up an entire page. Well, an ad fits there. Or if we don't get quite enough advertising, we're going to get stuck with a blank spot here. Sometimes it's just from a practical standpoint, it's so much easier to kind of combine the two so that we can fill up however many pages that we have. So trying to dedicate specific pages to one thing, specific pages to other things, can present its own challenges. I would love to hear what other people think about expanding the size of this, what we can do to defer the costs. If anyone is interested in.
So I was thinking maybe instead of going from 8 to 12, we could go from 8 to 10, start with 8 to 10 and see how that works. And then, as Matt said, some of the pages may lend itself to putting some advertising in them, and then we could still have, additional 2 pages, and see how that works. If you did get the restaurants involved, I think they would like to advertise. I think a lot of them would. I don't know, no one's tried it yet, so, but I would imagine that would be really good for our city, so, for the businesses. And then we also talked about, I think at one point, we talked about articles on some of our new businesses. So that would, that could take up some space if we needed to, fill in space. So, my thought was if we just, start with adding 2 pages, and then doing more advertising and see how that goes. And I like the ideas that you came up with, Rich. That when you say local elected officials reports on ward or general city issues, you mean council matters, matters that involve the council and, that kind of thing. You just mean don't go off on a tangent and talk about something other than, that would not involve the city itself.
So well, and of course, there's the other issue about having some sort of cutoff as far as how many words somebody should be able to put in, any individual elected official. I mean, I think if it goes over 200 or 300 words, it's getting to be a little too long.
Well,
So,
Did we have I don't think we had a problem this time, did we, Peter?
No. One of the articles was cut down a little bit because of just redundancy with another article, but all of them fit on 2 pages.
So, I mean, I would say as long as we're not having a problem with the space, I wouldn't put a limit. I mean, if we start having problems again, I mean, I think people got the message before, and it looks like we're under control for the moment. I mean, if it gets to be a problem again, we could talk about limits.
one comment about the 10-page idea. I think that might actually cost us more than a 12-page.
Really?
Yeah,
I was
because it'd
just
have to be
going to
stapled in, because they printed on sheets of paper 17 inches by 11 inches.
Okay.
So if you add another 17 by 11, that's going to add 4 pages.
Okay, I see what you're saying. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
If I may, Mr. Mayor?
Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
please.
did that one time. We've done a 12-page newsletter before, so that's nothing outrageous. But Mayor Helmer one time wanted an insert, so technically it was a 10-page paper, and it's very cost prohibitive, because they have to physically insert that page, and then they wafer seal it. So if you were looking for added space and you said you wanted 10, I'd say stretch it to 12.
Okay,
Only
that
because
makes
it's more economical.
Thank you. I didn't realize that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Makes sense.
Anyone else have any comments? Alderman Dash?
So this go around, it sounds like you implemented a lot of what we had talked about with providing more information on PZBA cases and new businesses and all that. Did you find it were you prohibited from sharing information because we didn't have enough pages in the newsletter?
Well, I don't have PZBA information in there. Well, we do
But we listed,
technically.
like,
We have new
applications, right?
businesses and where they are in the process and when they're coming through. So you're absolutely right with that. No, and to Treasurer Tibbetts' point, if you look at the newsletter, because in a case in point of the council corner, when there's more words, those words have to get smaller to fit on the page. If, like the newsletter that's coming out now, the front page of it is a tribute to Mayor Helmer. That was worthy enough of a front page. So you'll see that the words are a little bit larger in there. And you're right, some of the words may be bigger, there may be spacing. One thing I have found, though, is that when we do go to like the three column, while we can fit more information in there, I have heard complaints from individuals, especially older people who have a hard time reading without glasses or that the font can get too small. So we just have to be conscious of that. So it's not that we can't go to a three column. It's just that we have to make sure that we're not trying to cram so much information into such a small space. But if we do have 12 pages, then what we can do is we can move that around. And Mayor Dolik's completely right. The one page of advertising that we're doing now, that was something that Mayor Helmer wanted. I like the flexibility of being able to move those advertisements to where we need them, given the space of the other articles. That gives more flexibility to myself and to the graphic designer or whoever is working on the newsletter, because you can then fill in the weird gaps with a business card size ad, or 2 business cards, whatever. It makes it easier when you're putting the layout together. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I said.
You were looking like, what the hell is he?
Yeah, no, you went beyond my expectations with your response. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like we need more pages to share more information. I don't know, the 3 column one you showed, I've got to be honest, I probably wouldn't read any of it. Like, for me, it's got to be light and easy, and I've got to glance at it, I've got to take it away. But like, when I see council members' paragraphs and I see like a 5-paragraph essay, I am not reading it. I'm just going to be brutally honest. I want to get right to the point. Like, I liked how we summarized, like, we've got these 3 new businesses coming to town. I like the pictures. Again, I think things that catch people's eyes, people ask for more pictures and again, I do feel like the newsletter, by the time people get it, a lot of the complaints we get is that it's outdated. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing that there's like a huge need to expand it. Do we need more? Would people be inclined to advertise? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the advertising costs, so I don't know like how attractive it is for people to want to do that. I don't think we need more reports. I would hope that the city administrator and the department heads and other folks who have information to share in the newsletter are getting that to Peter. So unless department heads feel like their voices are not being heard, or again, that there's information, like, if Dan thinks, oh my gosh, I would love to share this, but it's not being shared, then I'd say, yeah, we need to give Dan a voice to put something in there. But again, unless staff is saying that they're not able to get the word out, again, I don't know that another chunk of reports, I've looked at other newsletters,
Yeah.
the city council members don't even write articles.
know that.
Just the mayor, or just the city administrator.
Right.
So, I feel like I was of the position, get rid of the city council reports and spend more time focusing on what we're doing as a council, what we're doing as a planning and zoning board commission, what we're doing in regards to events. So, I don't know. So those are my comments. At some point, I would just like to bring all of this to a head and make a decision and move on. I think that's sort of where I'm at.
I think that I read the reports of the feedback from the residents from the initial survey, and I think a lot of the residents do like information from their ward elected officials. So I don't agree that we should stop the elected officials from doing their reports. A lot of times, unfortunately, there's not enough communication between the elected officials and the residents during the year, and I think that it gives the elected officials an opportunity to communicate with their residents, and I think it's a good thing. And I think we've done it for a while, and I think we should continue it. I do agree.
For example, though, like the Arlington Countryside Stormwater Project, right? That doesn't need to come from me. It's in my ward, and I'm super excited about it, and my sentence is hey, we're finally breaking ground on this, get excited, but I think the real meat and potato article shouldn't come from me. It should come from staff, and they did that. So, when Peter gave us the list of this is what's going to be covered in the new newsletter, I was awesome. I don't have to talk about that. I don't have to talk about that.
And that's right, and that's good. That's what we did in this last newsletter. When we knew where the articles were focusing, we didn't have to. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We didn't have to necessarily, focus and talk about those issues. So that was great. That was really one of the best things that came out of this last newsletter, is we can focus on the things that weren't part of the articles and the rest of the newsletter. So that was really good. It was a really good part. And I do agree with Danielle about the 3-column. I think it's going to be kind of busy. I think if we're going to, I like the idea of trying the 12-page. You said more economical. That makes sense. And keeping the 2-column for right now.
Yeah.
Keeping it the way it is.
Well, unfortunately, I think it was starting to look a little bit like the condensed, or the Reader's Digest low vision version, you know what I mean? With big type and big space in between the lines. I'm just trying to economize a little bit and not trying to hurt people that have a vision problem. If it's that big of a problem, they may have other issues as well, so.
But I think there is a psychological added aspect of having 3 columns as opposed to having just the normal column that we have.
It's a suggestion that I think would make the newsletter look better. Overall, that's my personal opinion, and I think it comes from having done newsletters for myself for many years. I've done it both ways, and I'm not going to die on that cross. I'm just suggesting it as something to consider, helping the newsletter be more informative to people. And frankly, to speak to what Daniela was saying, I hate to say it this way exactly, but Prospect Heights is still got a small-town mentality. People like to be talked to personally. I think people come up to you on the street and go, hey, how's it going? Well, they get to know you personally, and putting your name in an article in the newsletter, especially for staff as well, helps them relate to them as a person, not just a blank article about something that they don't necessarily care about. But if it's from a certain person they know, they're much more likely to read it and understand it. So, and that's kind of what our police chief is doing now. I mean, he's not here tonight, but he recorded a video. He wants all of his officers to record a short video so people can get to know them personally.
I think it's great.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
I mean, I think elected officials, need to get out to speak more directly to their residents. In addition to that, I'm not saying they shouldn't, I'm not saying that they should be limited to the newsletter, and that by any means.
Right.
But it is a form of communication, and so it's important to do. And I think that, I like the idea that Nick Helmer brought up last year, which was the idea of doing some coffees, which we were going to do, and then COVID
Coffee with
was
the
a
council.
problem. Right, I think that was right before COVID hit.
Mhm.
And so we need to start thinking about that again. That would be something we should think about doing.
Right, and if Henry is still on the Zoom call, he might be interested in buying an ad in the newsletter.
All right, if there are no other comments or discussion here, thank you, Rich.
Comment?
Yes, go
I
ahead.
have a
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. How are we soliciting? I don't know if so many of our restaurants know that they can throw in an ad into our e-newsletter. How do we get the message to them? Or have we tried it all?
Don't they get a copy of the newsletter?
It
There we
doesn't
go, now.
seem,
Clerk Joanna, what we've done in the past, or what I've done in the past, is I've gotten an email, well, actually, in the past, I actually went to door to door, but we get an email list from building of all the business licenses that have come through. I think it was like 130 email addresses, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And that's how I started the initial base, you could say, for advertising. We've got the most advertising right now than we've had in the 8 years I've been doing the newsletter. So, and it's pretty much the staple people. It's service people, it's lawyers, it's insurance, it's
Brokers.
real estate agents. We've had we haven't even got a construction company. We've had other businesses, restaurants throughout the years, but I have sent numerous emails to these individuals. I unfortunately don't. I mean, I could make the time to go door to door to all these people, or we could figure out some way with the building department to send out the information with renewal forms for business licenses. That would be an idea to try to get more eyeballs on this. But we have made an effort.
Please do not go door to door. I mean, if your time is not better spent doing something else, then we have bigger problems than
was
this
just going-
newsletter.
But I don't think
I
he's
was just
talking
going
about
to-
door-to-door to residents, he's talking
No, he's
about.
going door to door to businesses,
So
like.
we've
yeah.
Thank you,
We've gotten-
thank you.
Yeah, like.
We've gotten more advertising now than we have in the past.
Yeah. But thank you.
That does not mean we can't do more outreach to the businesses.
I was going to
Maybe-
say the same thing. That should not be part of the staff's job description. to-
Yeah.
We also try to balance it to that it's voluntary advertising versus what might be considered obligatory. And we have had feedback from businesses that we're not comfortable with solicitation for various issues.
Yeah, we're a
of the
city, not a business.
Right,
to-
right.
To sell people.
And there's also an appearance of, that's also where your zoning board application is going and so forth. So
Right.
there's other considerations. Alderman Tibbetts brings up some great points, but, or Treasurer Tibbetts, I'm sorry.
Promoted.
Yeah.
An elevated.
But there are other considerations about how heavy-handed we want to be about solicitation.
Was there anything else, Joanna?
Again, I just thought a simple email, I don't want it to look like solicitation, but maybe a friendly reach out, hey, by the way, if you have been thinking about advertising, this door is always open for you. Something of that nature, I don't know when was the last time we've had any kind of communication on this topic with them.
I mean, don't
So-
the businesses get a copy of the newsletter? Right, so I mean, they could open it up and be like, oh boy, my neighbor is advertising, and maybe real estate brokers, restaurants, I mean, it's not like they're not aware we do this.
But I don't think, unless I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong, I think most of the advertising is not by commercial service business like restaurants. I mean, yeah, lawyers and real estate agents and insurance agents and, things of that nature, but I haven't seen restaurants on there.
Well, they must, yeah.
The mayor also, at his direction, I put the email addresses of the businesses in the e-news, for the e-news distribution list. So anybody that's given us their email address for businesses, unless they've opted out, they have the right to do that, they're in the e-news, or they get the e-news, so they see the thumbnail advertisements for those that support the newsletter.
But they may not know and realize that they're welcome to advertise the newsletter. That might be
Oh,
part of
come
the.
on.
Correct.
I don't know, my husband owns a business, if I get if I wanted to put an ad in there, I could do it. I mean, I don't think these businesses are dumb, I just think they,
There was wording in there, maybe it's not large.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure if a local business is trying to promote in Prospect Heights, they'd call City Hall and say, what can I do to get the word out, I mean,
Every new business
Yeah.
that passes, after they pass city council and we issue the building permits, we do the occupancy inspections, I refer them to Peter's office. I tell them, we have multiple ways to assist them in getting their name out, whether it's the e-news, whether it's the newsletter, whether it's possibly on the marquee, welcome to town, and then it's up to the business owner and restaurant owner to take advantage of the information we're given. It's not that we're not telling people about it or they don't have the opportunities. It's just, we don't have a dedicated salesperson. We don't have a dedicated program. We don't have anything from
We
the
have a
council to do those types of things. And then the chamber, Wendy, what the participation rate was.
Yeah, no, I do.
And the effort it took to try and get even that little bit of participation rate. So I believe that the opportunities are there. Rich, we do see a value in what's out there. Peter does a great job with it. But again, like Joe was saying, we wait until those businesses are a member of our community. Otherwise, you don't want to get into that tangle of forced advertising. That's not what we would do.
We can redouble our efforts in a very soft, I will stress, soft sell approach to make businesses aware that they certainly can advertise, and then we'll see what the results are.
I think that's a good idea.
I would
I
suggest,
agree.
going back to ribbon cuttings, I mean, we haven't done a ribbon cutting in a little while, I don't think. But that
what if we had to ribbon cut?
automatically.
I'm all for ribbon cutting. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
what if-
automatically get them a picture in the newsletter.
Yeah, did we?
And in the e-news probably too, so that gets them exposed.
Again, every business that gets their certificate of occupancy from me gets information on how to contact Karen's office if the business chooses to do a ribbon cutting. Okay? I take great pride in the businesses that we bring into town, that we help get open, get through the process, and give them as much opportunity to promote what they do.
Yeah.
And again, if their business culture doesn't like that type of program or not, that's,
It's on them,
that's on them.
right.
All right. On that note, I think you've given us a number of items to kind of digest here. I did mention to you, Rich, before the meeting that I'd like us to meet with some staff officials in the meantime, only because there are some practical things that I don't want to tie down an open meeting like this. But and I agree, Alderman Dash, this has been going on for a while, so I'd like to get this wrapped up. But we've got a number of things that were brought to our attention tonight, and I appreciate that. And so I think we can close this out for tonight, but we will finalize some of these decisions in the near future.
Okay,
So,
sounds
thank
good.
you, Rich.
Rich, thank you for putting all this together.
Yes,
You're
thank you,
You spent a
Rich.
lot of time on this, thank you.
Yes, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is the approval of warrants. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. The total for expenditures, we have $131,912.35. Wire payments on July 1st, 2022 payroll. The amount was $179,733.49. The June Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, the amount was $19,705.69, bringing the total warrant to $331,351.53 for our council's approval tonight.
And could I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved, Morgan Adams.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Are there any other corrections or comments? If there are none, could I have a roll call, please?
Alderman Ludvixson,
Aye.
Alderman Dash,
Aye.
Alderman Dolick,
Aye.
Alderman,
Did you say Morgan Adams?
Yeah, I think that.
Aye.
yeah,
All right, thank you. Motion passes 4-0. Item 14, public comments on non-agenda matters. Has anyone signed up, or is there anyone online that wishes to speak?
no one signed up, but please, if anyone wants to come forward.
If there is no one, I don't believe we have executive session tonight, and so that brings us to adjournment. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.